Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to do a little bit of a different video. Now, if you guys missed my last video about woke companies and apparently how they're walking away from ESG little by little, at least publicly anyway, a lot of these companies that supposedly are walking away from ESG and DEI initiatives, all they're doing is walking away from it in the public eye. But behind the scenes and the way these companies operate, they are absolutely still doing this nonsense, and they want you to think that they're not. Well, apparently, for woke companies, we have bad news. There is a poll out there that is being ran that apparently has increased from last year's same exact poll, where it went from 52% of the American populace not wanting companies to take a political stance on anything. Now, apparently, it has risen to 60%, and some part even higher in certain scenarios.
We're here to discuss your surrender.
So let's get into this article, guys, from Microsoft. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says a revealing poll shows that the majority of Americans do not want companies to take a stand on controversial political and societal issues in society. Roughly 60% of Americans think that companies should not take a public stance on current events. This is up from 52% last year. Now, guys, let's just be very clear, okay? I don't understand why it became a thing for people to go to corporations, companies, these massive entities that don't give a shit about you on a singular level. I don't understand when it became popular to go to these companies and sometimes demand, but mostly request them to make some sort of stance on a political or societal issue. Why are you going to corporations that only care about profit to then try to bolster your own narrative for your own certain whatever agenda you're trying to push? It makes no sense to me, right? Because you gotta know deep down inherently that these companies absolutely are only doing this to increase their profits, or at least at the very minimum try to increase their profits. Most of the time it doesn't happen, but sometimes it might. But still, they only do this in the hopes that they can garner some goodwill, some good press, or garner some increased revenue from a certain, aisle that maybe they don't actually have a customer base in. Maybe they're trying to bring it in. Regardless, they're trying to only do this to pad their pockets. The fact that you have people out there genuinely thinking in their mind, oh, Big Daddy Corpo actually cares about me. They care about my cause. They care about gay people. No, they don't. Not a single fucking corporation out there genuinely cares about what you think, what you're doing, or what your cause is. All they care about is how they can co-opt your cause to increase profits for themselves. But that's neither here nor there. It says a poll from Gallup and Bentley University found that only 37% of Americans think businesses should take a public stance on LGBTQ issues. That is a small amount. That is a lot of people that are heavily against corporations taking LGBTQ issues. Then it says 45% on racial issues. That is closer to like the halfway point. Now we're almost at the 50-50 point. 39% on gun laws, again, a very low number. 34% on immigration policy, very low number. And 27% on international conflicts, an even lower number. So LGBTQ and immigration, international, and gun laws have extremely low numbers. The only one that it's almost at a 50-50 ratio is racial issues at a 45%. Still not 50-50. There's still a majority, if you want to use the definition of the word. The majority of people still don't want companies to talk about racial issues. But there is even a bigger majority that don't want people to talk about any of the other shit. And you know what? They're right. I don't need a corporation to tell me what's right and wrong. Like, I don't know who or when or why or how this became a thing where corporations suddenly know what's right and wrong, and we need to look for them as some sort of an example. It says, in comparison, slightly more American-supported companies taking a stand on global warming, which is 55%, mental health, 52%, free speech, 49%, and healthcare, 48%. The least popular areas include abortion, 26%, political candidates, 19%, and religion at a staggering low 15%. Popular billionaire Shark Tank star Mark Cuban has argued that companies embracing woke ideology is just good business. Now, I remember when Mark Cuban said this, and I do not agree with this. Obviously, you guys already know that. I haven't seen many examples. I've seen some, but I haven't seen many examples of corporations benefiting from going after woke ideology. It has been years now, and almost all of them get woke, go broke to some extent, right? I'm not saying they die as a company, but I'm saying some of them do die, and most of them end up losing a lot of money and end up having to backtrack, issue an apology, or do something along the lines that they could have just avoided if they never took a stance to begin with. I don't know why we are doing this. Why do all these people look to these corporations to give any sort of ideological statement? Just makes no sense to me. A corporation doesn't have an ideology. A corporation only is going to do what is best for their pockets. That's it. Their ideology is money. That's what it is. Americans recently witnessed a severe backlash against brands like Bud Light and Target, which prompted far-left transgenderism. This cost the companies massive losses worth billions of dollars. Now, these companies still have not fully recovered from what ended up happening last year. Bud Light especially has not recovered. Target has gained a little bit, but for the most part is nowhere near the worth that they were last year. And they're even deciding, like I said in my last video, to not offer certain LGBTQ merchandise in certain states, right? And when they say certain states, you already know what they mean. They mean hardcore conservative states that are always red states. They never really flip. That's what they mean. They're not going to sell these swimsuits in like Florida, for example, or Texas or Alabama, you know what I mean? But they'll sell it in California. They'll sell it in New York. They'll sell it in Chicago. They might even sell it in Boston, Pennsylvania, and whatnot. But they're not going to sell it in places that they can't get away with it, right? Because they know that a lot of the bad press that they received last year was from states, you know, that really don't fall for this shit, right? So they had a lot of bad press come from red states, and they're trying to avoid that. So I think that they think if they do this in states that people openly advocated for, then they shouldn't have that much backlash to begin with, and they could be able to skate by, you know, scot-free without any issues. Ultimately, man, like I said before in the video, and I'll end it with this, these companies should not be your baseline for what is considered morally justifiable. Like, I just don't understand why even the wokest of the woke people want to go to a corporation in order to get the answer or some sort of a statement as to what they need to push for their agenda. It doesn't make any sense, right? If you want people to support your cause and your agenda, there's there's so many other areas that you can explore to get people behind your cause. You don't need to go to a company, because that company is just going to use you up, spit you out, and they're going to they're going to take you for as much as they possibly can until you are dry of money and you are no longer worth anything. So stop going to these corporations. They're woke as shit for reasons that have nothing to do with your cause and everything to do with padding their wallets. And it goes to show that a lot of this has to do with the ESG nonsense, right? We already know, we talk about that all the time to nausea, but we know that these companies are taking ESG to the maximum, right? And they're trying to pretend as if they're not. They're trying to pretend as if they're walking away from it, but we know that they're not. They still do this stuff because at the end of the day, their funding is heavily reliant on it. They take funding from BlackRock. They take funding from Vanguard. They take funding from a lot of companies that act like those two companies. And we already know that they're going to continue to do this. So if you are looking for these companies to make any sort of changes to go against, you know, fighting for supposed political ideology, don't expect that. I don't think they're going to change very much. I think some of them might, most of them won't, at least until it gets to the point where it's just overwhelmingly bad for them to do it. Then they might change it. But as of right now, they're going to keep pushing this nonsense into 2024, guaranteed. Just wait till gay month comes up next month. It's going to be wild. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.